There are two ways to understand a room. One is machine logic, what can be counted, categorized, and optimized. The other is emotional pattern recognition, what can be sensed through timing, tone, micro shifts, and meaning. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of your biggest mistakes weren't caused by a lack of information. They were caused by trusting the wrong kind of intelligence at the wrong moment. So today we're going to do something rare. We're going to separate what your nervous system knows from what your mind can justify. And if you're an INFJ or simply a deep observer, this is the kind of clarity that stops you from feeling crazy for reading what you can't yet explain. Let's define the terms cleanly. Emotional pattern recognition is the mind's ability to integrate social cues, context, memory, and bodily signals into a coherent forecast. Machine logic is the ability to process symbols, text, numbers, or images at scale. They are both forms of pattern detection, but they don't solve the same problem. Emotional pattern recognition solves meaning under uncertainty. Machine logic solves structure under scale. Emotional pattern recognition can be stunningly accurate and still be dismissed. Machine logic can be stunningly persuasive and still be wrong because it can produce confidence without comprehension. The real question is, what happens to your nervous system when you're forced to live in proof-only environments? That explains why some people burn out while trying to be rational. Section 2. Most people assume attention is neutral. It's not. Attention is a bottleneck. Your brain filters aggressively and then fills in the blanks with a story. In one of the most famous demonstrations of inattentional blindness, 46% of participants failed to notice an unexpected event that was plainly visible. That single statistic is the quiet explanation for how people miss obvious interpersonal patterns. It's not always denial. Sometimes it's simply that their attention was assigned elsewhere. Machines don't suffer inattentional blindness, but they can still miss what matters. Bender and Kohler call this the octopus test. A system learns patterns without connecting them to grounded meaning. If you've ever watched an algorithm misread a human moment, you've seen the difference between pattern matching and understanding. That is the fault line. Your emotional pattern recognition isn't soft, it's neurological. I'll show you the exact brain network that turns tiny cues into meaning. Section 3. If emotional pattern recognition feels like intuition, the default mode network is part of the reason. The DMN supports self-reference and social cognition. This is why you can walk away from a conversation and know something was off. The brain integrates micro data into a narrative model. You don't experience the calculation, you experience the conclusion. But the DMN has a dark side. It can loop. Meta-analytic findings show increased connectivity that often predicts depressive rumination. Rumination has measurable associations with psychopathology. Longitudinal correlations linking rumination and depression were reported around R6.41. Your narrative engine can either be a strategic simulator or a private courtroom. The difference is whether it ends in action or keeps searching for certainty. Section 4. Now we shift to regulation. When threat is detected, the amygdala can bias attention toward risk. Machines don't have an amygdala, they don't have cortisol, and they don't have a body that goes into protective mode. Humans do. Your accuracy can vanish as soon as your system perceives danger. Polyvagal theory proposes distinct autonomic states. Defensive shutdown is tied to older vagal pathways. Sometimes your body decides the safest strategy is stillness. That is exactly why emotionally perceptive people can look calm while internally sweating through hyperanalysis. That is freeze in a blazer. Section 5, we layer attachment. When security is uncertain, people adopt hyperactivating or deactivating strategies, intensifying detection to preserve connection. Higher attachment anxiety was associated with producing more cortisol and having fewer T cell counts. If you learned I must monitor for rejection, your body pays for that vigilance. Emotional labor has a measurable cost. In a study of 197 managers, surface acting was related to job-related exhaustion. You read the room, absorb the room, and go home depleted, while everyone else thinks you're simply quiet. That's not quiet. That's output without credit. Join my free off-algorithm email list for private frameworks and checklists. My ebook, Inside the Mind of INFJ, is also on Amazon. Section 6, let's make this practical. Emotional pattern recognition is best at detecting drift. Machine logic is best at processing scale. The mistake is forcing one to do the other's job. Treat your intuition as an early warning system. Step 1, name the signal without turning it into a story. Step 2, generate 2 alternative explanations to keep reasoning flexible. Step 3, design a small test, a clarifying question or boundary. That's how you convert intuition into data without betraying yourself. Suppression is biologically expensive. Neuroimaging shows suppression and reappraisal recruit different neural dynamics. Your goal is not to feel less, but regulated expression. Section 7. One more layer, moral injury. When you repeatedly silence your ethical perception to preserve peace, you accumulate self-betrayal. In high-stress jobs, 6.0% screened positive for moral injury, and that group had 3.38x higher odds of suicidal ideation. Your nervous system keeps the receipts. Give your internal world a safe exit ramp. Expressive writing is evidence-based for health benefits and stress reduction. It signals to your body, this has been processed. That alone can change how much your nervous system carries forward into tomorrow. Emotional pattern recognition is not the opposite of logic. It's a different layer of intelligence, one that's tuned to meaning, alignment, and safety. Machine logic is not the enemy. It's a tool that can stabilize and scale what your intuition detects. The future belongs to people who can do both, feel the weak signal early, and test it cleanly without self-gaslighting. If you want to train that skill off algorithm, join the free email list below. And if you want the INFJ-specific lens on this entire topic, pattern detection, burnout, boundaries, and leverage, Inside the Mind of INFJ is on Amazon. Last question before you go. Are you using your sensitivity as a private burden or as a public asset with structure and self-respect?